Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and this is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. If you haven't seen it yet, be sure to check out in news. Be sure to check out my yesterday review of Lita and my top four favorite matches from the extreme female wrestler herself. And of course, let me just warn you guys there's a funny comment there. Lita is, I did not know this because she doesn't look 47, but obviously she's 47, not 74. But that was still hilarious, KJV. Thanks for the humor. But either way, let's get started with today's review of Friday Night Smackdown from Massachusetts because for some reason I have trouble pronouncing that city that is named after a sauce that Riddle alluded to earlier tonight. But either way, let's get started. I'm not going to talk about Riddle and Randy Orton just yet. But hold that thought because I'm going to talk about it later as we review the main event. But let's talk about the opening contest that saw Rhea Ripley face off against Naomi. To be honest, I thought it was going to be another one of those SmackDown shorts, but thankfully it was not a SmackDown short. It was actually a pretty interesting match. Now, when I say SmackDown shorts, I mean matches that don't last that long, that don't tell of a lot of a story. But either way, this match told a story. It was kind of fun to me. I really enjoyed it. And I will say this. First of all, I don't know what is this thing is that Rhea's been doing, but after an epic match, this match was really good. But after the match, there was the Riptide pinfall, and Rhea Ripley pinned Naomi. Now, I just gotta say, those are some interesting pinfalls. I'm just gonna say that to keep everything PG. That is a very interesting. Rhea has a very interesting way of pinning people. It's just how it is. I'm just gonna leave it there, just to keep it PG. But nonetheless, Rhea Ripley gets a hard-fought victory tonight over Naomi, and Liv wins against Sasha last week, but today Rhea won against Naomi. So they got great momentum. Now, to be honest, I don't think Team Bad or Boss and Glow, as they're called now, I don't think they're going to lose this Monday. But regardless, I really hope Liv and Rhea stay together and maybe become the future tag team champions of someone. But if they lose, I hope Rhea and Liv don't turn on each other because Boss and Glow with Liv and Rhea are two of my favorite tag teams right now. I think both of them are absolutely cool. But let's get on. That's not on the only thing that happened tonight. We saw Madcap Moss, as I like to call him Magic Mike Moss because he looks like a dancer from Las Vegas, obviously, lose. Since he's babyface now, I think Magic Mike should lose the Magic Mike look. Either way, by the way, I'm glad you're not dead, baby Yoshi. I'm glad you're still alive because I know his jokes killed you in the past, but you can blame Corbin for that because Madcap Moss said that Corbin is to blame for the terrible, terrible jokes because nobody found anything funny until last week, of course. And who is Tommy Bahama? Who's Tommy Bahama? Y'all gotta help me with that because apparently Corbin looks like he went to one of their funerals. He looks like he lives in Hawaii, is what Baron Corbin looks like, or Happy Corbin, should I call him. But either way, tonight he's, as was last week and the week before, Matt Cap Moss, or Magic Mike as I like to call him, is getting over with the crowd. Even Pat McAfee got a little mixed feelings. You got thumbs up and thumbs down. I thought that was funny. But either way, the crowd was a bit behind him as he got over defeating Humberto Carrillo. And I must say, that running shoulder tackle had Carrillo spinning like he was on a Tekken game. Like, and all that good stuff. So I thought that was good. And I think that he has a pretty interesting future. I'll just be honest with that. I think he's got a pretty interesting thing. I hope at some point he is able to defeat Happy Silly Corbin. In other news tonight, Drew Gulak is going into an interview. He went from wrestling to being an interview specialist. And who did he interview first? Well, who did he interview first? I forgot. But either way, the next person that he interviewed after interviewing Magic Mike was Charlotte Flair. And this was something. He wasn't the best start as a journalist. It wasn't the best start, but he did ask some interesting questions that was so interesting it triggered Charlotte Flair. And I'm gonna tell you, that was the most ridiculously funny thing I ever heard. I laughed so hard when Charlotte made the excuse saying, "The reason I didn't tap out, I was fixing my bra." That was the funniest excuse I ever heard. If you ever watched funny home videos and you see when a child is caught in a lie, did you eat the cupcake? No, mommy. What's that on your lip? A monster came and put the cupcake on me. I can only imagine how much of a terrible liar Charlotte Flair was as a child. It's like those jokes you hear when a child gets caught with a cupcake. If you're gonna be a liar, be a good one. If you I don't condone lying. Lying is not a good thing, but especially when you know you're a terrible liar. And Charlotte is a terrible liar. Just terrible. But what happened next had nothing to do with lies. But she said what she said before, which is that she's good at winning because winning is in her DNA. However, what's not in her DNA is Stone Cold Steve Austin. But that didn't stop her from taking a page out of the Rattlesnakes playbook, chanting what to the crowd? As the crowd chanted, "You tap out," because Charlotte tapped out. She was not fixing her bra. What in the free world? The silly excuses that heelish wrestlers come up with when they get caught in something is just hilarious. But what was not hilarious is what Charlotte did later, totally destroying Drew Gulak, putting him in the hurt lock. No, not the hurt lock. I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting mixed up with this video I saw with Masters versus Lashley way back in 2007. By the way, whose was better, Chris Masters or Bobby Lashley? Let me know your thoughts on that. But either way, back to the matters at hand. Charlotte Flair put Drew Gulak in the figure eight and not only made Drew Gulak tap out, but she made Drew Gulak say, "I quit." I really don't know what to think of this. You got Drew Gulak, who's a wrestler, obviously spent some time in Ring of Honor, if I'm not mistaken, tapping out to Charlotte Flair. I don't know what to make of that, honestly. Quite embarrassing for Drew Gulak, but this is Charlotte Flair, but this looks like some humiliation video, if I may. I'm gonna try and say it as PG as possible, but this is some humiliation vid kind of stuff, in my personal opinion. Later on, we saw some packages from Gunther, or as he's once known, Walter. In the words of The Rock, it doesn't matter what your name is. But either way, we're going to call him Walter. What the heck? Because I don't want to name him after somebody who was associated with Hitler. But either way, Walter sent a video package tonight, and I think Walter's going to have a future on SmackDown. I think, now, like I said last week, I don't think he's going to dethrone Roman Reigns. I would love to see him and The Rock face off next year, if be all possible, but I don't think Walter's going to dethrone Roman. But I do think Walter versus Roman would make a good championship match, and I think he could probably make a long reign as Intercontinental Champion. Of course, it's not gonna be popular because he's a heel and Ricochet's a face, but the guy's got an interesting future on SmackDown, and everybody needs to wear a chest-proof vest because Walter is known for chopping chests. If Christopher and Walter face off in a chest chopping contest, I don't know who win, but it would be an interesting match. Speaking of Pat McAfee said Rabbit Wolverine tonight in a segment that involved Butch with his friends Ridge and Sheamus when they had an altercation with the New Day. When Butch attacked the New Day after Xavier made a G.I. Jane joke. Now, in my personal opinion, nobody needs to be making G.I. Jane jokes right now, if I may be honest, and I'm just going to leave it at that. But either way, I don't know why he's Butch, why he can't just be Pete Dunne, the finger snapper, but that's WWE Smackdown for you. Also, in small news, we heard the testimony of Lacey Evans talking about her upbringing, and it was, I don't look at it as something to mock or give the world's smallest violin, in the words of Eddie Kingston, but thoughts and prayers to anyone who has the same story as Lacey Evans. Congratulations to her for becoming a Marine. And like she says, she's not better than anyone else, but no one else is darn sure better than her. But either way, Natty and Shayna Baszler are unimpressed. And speaking of Natalya, it's so interesting. We're seeing a lot of people go from Raw or SmackDown to NXT 2.0, and it's making NXT 2.0 very interesting when they're not doing Days of Our Lives crap with Indy and Jensen and that other tag team. Jensen has the potential to be like APA if he would stop worrying about getting a girlfriend. Who cares? But either way, moving forward, we see a lot of people go from the main rosters to NXT. AJ did it. Dolph Ziggler did it and had a short reign as NXT champion. Of course, we also saw Mandy Rose did it much earlier, and now she's NXT Women's Champion, dyeing her hair all black. And now Natalya is on NXT. And Natalya really played to us. She had us thinking, she had Cora Jade in the palm of her hands. And now they're going to have a rivalry in NXT. It's like the saying goes, never meet your hero, and Cora Jade find out the hard way. DTA, don't trust anyone, especially Natalya. So obviously Natalya is going to be doing two jobs, going from NXT 2.0 and SmackDown, just like AJ Styles did. If I didn't mention him earlier, my apologies. But either way, that's all for small news. Despite, in addition, Raquel is now on SmackDown. I'm really waiting for them to put Raquel in a match, please, and just make her future SmackDown Women's Champion. The SmackDown roster is very interesting, and I think Raquel, Lacey, I think Raquel's going to be a SmackDown Women's Champion someday. Raquel is. Lacey, I think she can be a SmackDown champion too. Obviously, she's being built up to be everyone's favorite Southern girl and Marine soldier also because she did serve in the Marines. I would love to see her be in another Marine movie with her as one of the main stars, if not the main star. That'd be interesting. But let's talk about some other small matches. We had a couple of SmackDown shorts tonight, but they were interesting SmackDown shorts. Except for this one. We had Drew versus Sami Zayn, and once again, Sami Zayn continues to run away. Now, there was a moment where Drew chased Sami up the crowd area, and I thought that it was a trap, just like Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon at the Royal Rumble 1999, but it wasn't to be. Next week, we're going to have ourselves a lumberjack match, and Sami Zayn can no longer run, and he can no longer talk about conspiracies. I love how WWE did the caption this version of Drew McIntyre carrying Sami Zayn. It was hilarious, and people put in captions like, when your children don't want to go to school and things like that. I thought it was funny. But let's get to the main event. In the opening night, we saw RK Bro come to SmackDown just like the Usos came to Raw earlier this Monday. And once again, Randy Orton reminded the Usos of the saying that was blocked off the WWE video. And that was the fact that Roman Reigns let his chicken biscuits off the leash. I gotta say biscuits. Because my mother, in the words of JR, my mama's watching. Y'all remember when JR used to say that? But either way, earlier tonight, we opened the show with RK Bro coming to SmackDown and accepting the Usos challenge. And so we will have a winner take all match at WrestleMania Backlash. But as for tonight, we got Riddle versus Jimmy Uso. And Jimmy Uso really did take control of the match early on, but the ending was very interesting. You see, with Randy Orton and Jay fighting on the outside, Matt Riddle and everyone got distracted, but it was Riddle who would take control because Riddle was launched in the air and then came flying down with an RKO on Jimmy Uso for the win. Now, that, first of all, let's just say how awesome that is. Let's just take a minute to bask in that. I've never seen that before, but I really enjoyed it. It was one of those OMG moments that will live forever. And I forgot to mention another interesting short match that happened, and that was with Ricochet versus Jinder Mahal. And Jinder Mahal hasn't been seen a lot lately. He came with Shanky, Veers on Raw, and finally Veers showed up because I didn't think he was ever going to show up. They kept saying it was almost like when Kane was told to come. He said, Paul told The Undertaker, your brother Kane is coming! He's coming! And The Undertaker didn't believe it, and it's like that all over again. Veer's coming 1 week, Veer's coming the next week, and it's like, yeah, we know Veer's coming. And he finally decides to show up. When we finally heard that he was going to come after WrestleMania, we were like, okay, thank you for telling us, because I really stopped caring. But either way, Veer's on Raw, destroying the Mysterios and sending Dominic to the hospital. He's going to be a monster heel that no one likes. But either way, moving forward, Shanky and Jinder Mahal are still on SmackDown. Jinder was in action in a short match with Ricochet. I really enjoyed Ricochet's highlights. Even though it was short, it was still good. We saw Ricochet do a frog splash crossbody, as well as a dive over the top rope, crossbodying Shanky and Jinder when they moved Jinder out of the way. I thought Ricochet was going to go for the 630, which is like the 450 splash, but he actually went for the shooting star press. I got to ask you guys this question. Who did it best, Ricochet or Evan Bourne? Now, obviously, they mentioned, I forgot his name again, Billy Kidman. They mentioned Billy Kidman, who also did the shooting star press. Brock did it once, but after he hurt himself doing that move, he never did it again. I'd love to see Brock Lesnar do that shooting star at a WrestleMania again, but I think he's scared of hurting himself again. And sometimes you got to be wise. But that's all for now. What did you think about tonight's broadcast of Friday Night SmackDown? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm your host, Daniel Cody. That's all the time I got for you today, and I'll be back another time on All Things Wrestling. But again, who did the shooting star better? Ricochet or Evan Bourne? Let me know. See you next time.